Alright, so we weren't able to play this week, um, but I know we are reaching the end of the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I'm estimating about 2 or 3 more sessions, and currently they just need to clear the rest of the Wave Echo Cave, and they will eventually face the Black Spider. And we do plan on playing after that, so I'm still trying to decide if it's going to be a published adventure or if it's going to be homebrew. They will be level 5, so I think we can slot in some of the published adventures pretty easy. But I also want to, before we go into the published adventure, there'll be some downtime. The players can kind of do some stuff in Phandalin if there's anything else that they want to do. Because they've mainly been on the search for Gundren, and that's kind of just been their main quest. And we are fairly new players, most of them are. So we're not quite advanced in the kind of character quests or advancing character, and they just kind of we've been learning the rules and playing. So one of the thing, and I can show some of the characters here. Um, so they kind of built some backgrounds, and they've kind of set up some interaction between the party, but nothing major. We got Scrump, the Goliath fighter, over the course of the adventure so far. It was mentioned that he was in a war, and he kind of has PTSD from that. And he did something to a puppy, uh, so that's kind of, I mean, there's more to it, but those are kind of the main threads we've got. Kreef, the Asamar Paladin. Um, he worked in Neverwinter as an armorer, and this player likes to um, craft things, so we're kind of working on. I think he has a spell that lets him craft little tiny bits and pieces, but um, he may want to do some stuff crafting wise for the town of Phandalin, or I'll let him decide. Jothrin, the human ranger, his backstory is he was held by centaurs, so his favored enemy is centaurs. Centaurs haven't really played a huge role in this, but maybe there's something I can bring in. Uh, a roving band of centaurs or a tribe or something during the downtime activity approaches Phandalin. And we're not really sticking to the true layout of the land. I mean, there's Phandalin and we have the maps and everything, but I have no issue mixing different sources to kind of create a fantasy land. So, and then the rest are pretty blank so far. We have some fairly new players here, and they were just learning their character and the functions and just getting used to everything. So, uh, eventually, I think we'll want to sort of beef up their background, or I'll try to give them opportunities to expand on their characters in game, um, to try to learn some information about them, or just ask them outright if there's anything that they want to kind of explore in their character. So some of the story threads that I've been laying over the last couple of sessions, we haven't really decided on a next book, but they did run into some hobgoblins with some treasure um, on the Tribor Trail, which leads the Neverwinter to Phandalin, to Tribor, just kind of as a introduction that the dragons are on the move in case anything comes out of that. Um, they've seen some dragons flying. They did encounter Venom Fang, but um, off in the distance at night or something, they saw a dragon fly, and they've been hearing stories from villagers. Um, and along with those stories are about some of the giants destroying, I think, Tribor, which is the introduction to Storm King's Thunder. So just kind of laying some groundwork for, ease into some of these other published adventures. And then I think I mentioned this in the last session. The party was exploring Cragmaw Castle, and they ran into Lupe, the goblin, who had a pet Grick. And the party killed the Grick and kind of convinced the goblin that it was the hobgoblins who killed the Grick. So Lupe walked off with his followers, and um, that might be interesting to have some sort of territorial battle going on um, with Tregor, who was the hobgoblin that wanted the bugbears out of Cragmaw. Um, so maybe in the downtime, I'm thinking that they see increased presence um, of goblins and hobgoblins, but they're not really concerned um, about the village of Phandalin. They're more concerned about each other. And that kind of leads me to, I forgot this guy. So they met a goblin in the very first cave, which was, I think, Clark's cave at the beginning after they got ambushed. I think that was in chapter 1 of the Lost Mine of Phandelver book. And his name happened to be Bernie, but he was a goblin that the party um, they didn't necessarily befriend. I think they took him hostage, and they wanted him to lead him to their camp, and he was just very he did what they said because he didn't want to die, and um, but he didn't really warn them about traps or anything, and he just wanted food and coin. So he's just a simple goblin, or so they think, um, who they're acquainted with. So I can potentially have him come back in at some point. And then that leads me to some of these downtime activities. So after 2 or 3 sessions, as I kind of prepare for the next set of adventures, um, I'll probably just prepare a couple one-shots and we'll just kind of wing it, um, depending on what the party wants to do. Um, I know it's not very 5e is not geared towards PvE, but it may be interesting to have the party like have our arena in the town to attract other. Um, and Sildar may, who's the current town master, he took over. He may mention this, or um, there's also refugees in the town from the refugees are in Phandalin. So these are the people that have been displaced by the giants destroying the outer towns. Um, and I would imagine once Sildar is kind of done, he may want to, once he has the Wave Echo Cave up and running, um, he may want to leave the town and go back to Neverwinter. And, they probably don't have elections in this time period, but I think it may be fun to sort of have an election if people are interested in that, and just kind of go through how they would approach that. Um, and I may throw these all out once they make it back to town after Wave Echo Cave, and I'll say, hey, just kind of it's a downtime. You can kind of do if there's anything you want to do, and then I'll just kind of as time progresses, these things are going to happen without them or not. So an arena may be built on the outskirts to provide entertainment for the new refugees, so the party can watch. Most likely they'll want to take part of it. Um, Somebody's going to become the new town master, and I know there's some more NPCs in the town who have different interests from the the handbook or the source book. So one of them may approach the party. Um, NPC may approach party and ask them to run or yeah, run for town master. And there's another thing is cook-off. Um, so this was from a Kickstarter called Dragon Stew, which the art's pretty interesting. Um, and it just provides some basic rules and a little tiny adventure for having like a cook-off. Um, Once I get closer to that, I'll probably showcase some of those items. But you basically hunt monsters and get certain parts, and then you have to cook it. And there's basically a judge or something of the town, and depending on how the characters roll or role play, depends on their final score. And I already kind of introduced a little bit of this topic with the party they had at their chateau. Um, it was just a little bit more streamlined. And then I'm thinking, the party may want a base. Phandalin might be that base. They do have the manor that was atop the hill that the red brands um, were using, and they've kind of already turned that into their home. And they may want to keep doing that. And um, I know there's a lot of travel around the world, but they can always come back to Phandalin for the downtime. So they may want to maybe not hire, but convince some NPC who has some extraordinary talent to come to the town so that they can use their services. I'll kind of leave that up to the party. Most of these will be left up to the party if they want to do them. These NPCs might not make it to town if the party doesn't do anything. But if they do want a certain NPC, like if they want a potion maker or something, which comes up with its own entire rules, or they want a wizard to come to the town, they can go out on a little adventure, and I'll have to prep that later, but maybe they go out just, one shot out to those places and try to convince, try to come up with some silly or, depending on what they want, just little adventures that won't take too much time. Um, and the other option, which they'll probably want to do, is to fix the chateau, as they call it. It's the manor on the hill in Phandalin. And that can be uh, taken in a couple of different ways. I know one of the players likes to make maps, so he may make a map, um, or they may just describe it off. We just might have a chat log somewhere and they just describe what they want to do, and we don't necessarily have to role play it. But either way, over this downtime, they'll most likely fix their chateau. Um, but yeah, I think those are most of the threads I have for now. Still trying to figure out the main overall arching, if we want to do a published adventure or just make up some stories on my own, which will involve a little bit more work, um, but could be a little bit more exciting. But yeah, if you got any ideas, happy to hear them. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and see you next time.